Okay, where I left off in the last exercise, we had something that kind of looked like this. Actually, probably more like this. I think it had a white background. No big deal. So what we have here is a title to our map. We've imported some jQuery. We've connected our CSS files. We brought in a free Google web font. So we're sitting pretty here. What I'd like to do now is actually add a few more elements and then introduce you to some simple jQuery. And then we're going to get rolling and actually bring in a leaflet map on this. So this is great. One thing most maps need are some buttons of some sort or some menu buttons. So let's just add some of those now. So up here in our header area, and I will put it after our good morning title, let's type button and give this an ID name of button1 and a class of buttons. And let's just call this button1, very original. And we'll just copy this, change this to button2, and the ID name will change to button2. So here we go. We've got some nice little buttons here. I think in my style nope, I don't have any button CSS yet, but they're just lining up beautifully. That is great. So we've got some buttons. You can click on them. They won't do anything right now. That's fine. The next thing I want to do with this map is I kind of want to make a splash, no pun intended. So the goal is to kind of have a splash screen when someone loads this site. They can't miss it. They can't miss the rhetorical message of the map. Good Morning Pakistan probably makes it hard to miss. I just wanted to show you how to add a header and a title. But if you didn't have room, for example, or didn't want to include a title, a splash screen is a great way to go. So underneath the header, basically the rest of this area we want to be devoted to our message, the map, and also a splash screen or kind of an info text box, if you will. So let's create a new div and call it wrapper. And this is generally a good idea because everything inside the body besides your header is now going to be in this wrapper, everything dealing with your map, so to speak, your map elements and everything like that. And so it's just good to make this div so that we can kind of control it and style it, at least position it how we want. All right, in here though, we're going to create another div, and we'll call this whatever you want, but I'm going to call it splasher for splash screen. And we can add some H1 text. Our drone strikes helping. And then we can add some inflammatory, like thought-provoking text, perhaps. All right, there you go. And of course, it's not going to show up. Why? Because text defaults to black in HTML, and we have a black background. So we'll add some fun CSS here. We can, why don't we do this? Background color white. Add some padding around the edges, give it some space there. Probably don't need that much space at the top though, so we'll put 0 pixels. All right, good. Now it's looking better. Let's make this a width. We don't want it to take up the whole darn screen. It looks kind of ridiculous. So let's give this a width of 500 pixels. And we'll give it a margin left, auto, margin right, auto. And it's in the middle now. That's pretty good. All right. So we now have a little splash screen. Of course, the trick is to get this thing to disappear. That'll be what we do with some jQuery later on. Let's give it an opacity of 0.75. That's probably a little dark, 0.7. Cool. All right, so basically what we have now is another div floating in the middle of nowhere. So the goal here is going to be to have a map load underneath this using leaflet, but also to have this disappear if you click anywhere on the map or on the splash screen itself. And we can do that before we even have the map. So let's go to our jQuery file right now. Let's see. So we'll go to our script file. And it looks like I was already playing with this a little bit earlier. Let's see. Oh, we have a button too. Let's see what happens. Nothing. All right, no big deal. So what we're going to do is close. I'll delete this. Sorry about that. So we're going to go to this script file we have sitting here and ready to rock and roll, so to speak. And well, things changed there. And let's, the typical thing with jQuery, document ready function. Every jQuery JS file you ever write should start like this. And now let's roll. Let's have, well, basically, always think through what you want to have happen. If someone clicks on the div, the splasher div, we want it to fade away. So let's do this. Let's target the splasher div with ID splasher, on click, function, yada yada. Go down here. Don't forget to do that semicolon. And then let's say, hey, all right. Now, if this is linked properly, this should work. Perfect. It faded out. Of course, it's popping up right now. If we have a map underneath it, the background won't change with it. But right now, basically, wrapper went from having that to nothing, so it disappeared. Good. Let's add something else. Let's say we want that to come back. How could we do that? Well, we go down one and give another command, or if you want to think about it like a recipe, we're basically giving the computer orders. And we can do click. We can do fade. Wait, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So if someone really wants to see this again, whoops, that's not going to work. All right, why not? Because it's probably because it's a fade toggle. So we can do a fade in. All right, even I admit I don't know what exactly is going on here. I'm missing something obvious. Ah, infuriating. Oh, I know what's happening. Up here I meant to say button 2. I said splasher. It doesn't know what the heck to do. All right, see? Human error, as usual. So when something goes nutty like that, it's normally either you're targeting the wrong object for clicking, or it's human error. And I do a lot of human error, so I totally empathize. All right, so we now have this disappearing and coming. That's great. This is super. So next step, basically, you guys are getting, for those of you watching these tutorials, you're probably getting pretty excited about adding a map to your website. I mean, that's what you're here for in my classes, and also why you're probably watching this tutorial. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is basically show you how to, we now have a splash screen map element, we have some buttons that can do things for us, and in the next tutorial I'm going to show you how to bring in a leaflet map underneath all this and make it sing. Thanks for watching.